Good morning, everyone. It's great to see everyone this morning. Thank you for coming to learn more about the WorkSource Oregon Operational Standards Rollout and Training Plan. My name is Ricky Smith. I'm the area manager in the Mid-Willamette Valley. The Mid-Willamette Valley covers Marion, Polk, Yamhill, and Lynn counties. I work for the Oregon Employment Department at our 6 WorkSource centers in the area, and my role is to help oversee center operations in coordination with state and local leadership.
And I am Cindy Perry. I am the Director of Workforce Programs at Lane Workforce Partnership, and I oversee primarily our WIOA Adult, Youth, and Dislocated Worker programs. Thank you.
Someone that's not here today but really does have a hand in this material is Kendall Harris. Kendall is a one-stop operator for 5 of the 9 workforce areas. You're going to hear more about her role with the team that we're going to talk about, but just want to make sure she gets some credit for the materials that she helped provide for this presentation. Cindy and I are really opening up this session to talk about the work that went on behind the scenes for the creation of the WorkSource Oregon operational standards. This was a part of a continuous improvement team that we were a part of, and we will review the makeup of the work group, the identified goals and objectives, and highlight several additions that were added to the WorkSource standards. The One-Stop Operator Continuous Improvement Team, or OSO-CI team, is made up from leaders all across the 9 workforce areas. Primarily, I see Brian back there, who was also a part of this group. So primarily, this was made up of Oregon Employment Department area managers, as well as program directors from local workforce development boards. The team was facilitated by a one-stop operator, Kendall Harris, who I mentioned earlier, and she's the one that oversees 5 of the 9 workforce areas as a one-stop operator. This team was actually created right after the pandemic began, and it was created in an effort to mitigate any kind of negative responses that were occurring in the workforce system. Since its inception, the team has grown and broadened their scope of work to include the review and revision of the WorkSource Oregon operational standards, system technology assessments, best practice sharing, and evolved efforts to consistently review gaps and problem areas within the WorkSource system. The feedback from and continuous improvement ideas really help lay the foundation for an important body of work, the one that you're all here to learn more about, and that's the implementation of the WorkSource Oregon operational standards.
So as we went about this work, as Ricky mentioned, we were facilitated by a neutral convener. Kendall works for the Oregon Manufacturing Extension Partnership, and they are the one-stop operator across several areas. And what we were trying to do is to identify like the who, the what, the how of how we are working together. So we reviewed the standards 2.0, which those of you who have been around for a while, you know that we've been through several versions of the standards. The new ones that just came out is our 3.0. But we wanted to look at it to see, did it have the clarity that we needed? Did it have standards for everything that we needed? What was missing, or what was in there that actually really didn't need to be in the standards any longer? And the WHO is a statewide team. So the OSO-CI team really started out with WIOA Title I staff that worked for the workforce boards, my peers across the state, and so from all 9 regions. As we started this work, though, we realized it can't be just Title I. It has to be about all of us. So many of the OED area managers joined the work group, and then we had one member from Trade Act join the work group so that we were more inclusive in doing this work. We also wanted to make sure that we were including subject matter experts, and we'll look at a slide in a minute about how we broke the work up to really tackle it. But what we all did is we took the work, our sections, back to our local areas, and we had subject matter experts join smaller work groups to help us define the current standards. And we also, in doing that work, we created a list of some new standards that Ricky's going to talk about in a minute that we also needed. Just let's pop to the next slide. I think that's the one. So this is how we broke the work up. So we really looked at the standards in terms of the type of work that we were doing. So like career services, training services, business services, our standards around assessments and implementation, all those kinds of things. So what was the subject matter expert? And we tried to follow the flow of customers as they work in the center. So the center bubble, it shows you all the members of the statewide work group that worked on development of the Standards 3.0. And then the smaller bubbles are the smaller sections in which we took things back to local areas and had smaller teams of subject matter experts. So like I'll talk about the pink bubble up at the top, career services, that was my work group. I am with Lane County, and then we had some folks that are actually doing career services on the work group. And I don't see her in here. I see her supervisor, Deanna, supervises Caitlin Little. And Caitlin was one of the members on my team to help us identify what career services really is in the WorkSource centers. So we did the same thing with training services. We took deep dives into business services. We really looked at exploratory services, you know, what this really is and what does it really need to be as we were developing the new standards. And then we also looked at what was missing. We were in the beginning and the height of the pandemic. We talked about things like safety, emergency services, those types of things, and what needed to be in the standard. And so Ricky will talk a little bit more about those here in a minute. Some of these standards, we just had Kendall and the work group work on those together because they were like common to everything that we were doing, and but a lot of them were just taken back to the locals. So I think I touched on everything I was going to.
Thank you, Cindy. And so you can see all of the work that was going on behind the scenes and all the conversations that were happening and being brought to local leadership teams as well as subject matter experts to help inform the revision of the standards. Could I have the next slide? Thank you. And so the majority of the WorkSource Oregon operational standards remain as you know them today. The goal being Oregon's one-stop service delivery compass, one that provides guidance to help local systems identify continuous improvement opportunities, as well as removing barriers to any of our job seekers and our employers. Standard state guidance and local standardized processes really helps all of our teams work collaboratively and in sync with one another. Having local standardized processes keeps local teams as well as local leadership accountable to the system goals and expectations. Further, having standards eliminates duplication, eliminates process fragmentation, and also overall waste. Part of the revision included having conversations to really identify what were some gaps in the guidance that we had received previously. While the majority, again, of the standards remain the same, several additions were added that came out of those conversations. These include safety, stand-up meetings, virtual services, as well as WorkSource Oregon onboarding. So we'll talk about safety for a bit. As Cindy mentioned, we really were in the height of the pandemic with a lot of these conversations, and our worlds had changed drastically. And so with safety, it's really taking ongoing processes that are happening in our centers with safety committees, as well as continuity of operations plans, and bringing that information to local leadership teams. One, so that they know what's occurring, and two, so that we can identify any processes that we need to work on improving. This way we've same-paged the information to provide a safer workplace both for our job seekers and our teams. Stand-ups have been folded into our schedules for quite a while. However, that looks different depending on the area you're at or the center that you report to. So having stand-ups folded into this, the addition really calls out the need for attendance, inclusivity, making sure that topics are not being driven by only one partner, and frequency of those meetings. And then with virtual services, it may seem like we've been doing this for a while, and we have, but they weren't called out in previous editions of our WorkSource standards. So the new edition of virtual services has key elements that every local area is to follow. And last but certainly not least is the WorkSource Oregon onboarding. It's the call to provide onboarding to all partners under our WSO umbrella. And then while each partner has their own organizational training that they have to train towards, it's up to local leadership teams to develop an onboarding strategy so that those folks entering into the workforce system understand what WorkSource Oregon is and how it relates to the area that they're supporting.
Can I just give you one example on virtual services? Also, in the old standards, we had workshops, and there was certain specific criteria for those workshops that we wanted covered, if it was a resume or whatever the kind of workshop is. The new standards say it's about not just the content, but the delivery. So the new standards say in-person workshops, virtual workshops, and/or hybrid workshops. So that is one change, big change when it comes to virtual services.
That's a great point. Thank you. All right. So in closing, we have the standards as a guide on the standard expectation of service delivery to the common customers that we serve in our centers. And this is regardless of the WorkSource Oregon Center that our job seekers access. So for example, if a job seeker comes into our centers and we mention that they are work ready, all 9 workforce areas understand what work ready means, the definition, and their messaging work ready in sync as a public and how we're serving our communities. Also, as a workforce system, we need to be actively engaged with the standards. They cannot just sit on a shelf and go unnoticed. These need to be active documents that we're reviewing constantly for improvement because our customers and our teams deserve that. And the management of the Oregon American Job Center Network is really the responsibility of state, local workforce development boards, elected officials, one-stop partners, one-stop operators, and service providers. We recognize how important this work is and are very excited to continue to support this work to help identify areas of improvement on the continuous improvement team. And for those of you that are here that are going to be doing the standards training, we thank you so much. We are so excited that this is being implemented and rolled out. And from there, we turn it over to Katie.
Right. Thank you everyone for being here. My name is Katie Lynch and I am a learning and development specialist with the Oregon Employment Department. I have had the chance to experience the changes within WorkSource over the last few years since the pandemic. And let me say it's been a wild ride, getting to be there during the pandemic as things were changing, and then moving forward, seeing those partnerships start to build again, which is really the goal of this training that we're going to be doing, the rollout training across the state. So as you could hear from Cindy and Ricky, there was a lot of work and collaboration that went in the development and review of these standards. And so one of our main messages that we want to share as we roll out this training is collaboration. How can we stay curious? How can we step outside of our boxes, our silos, and maybe even lift our head up and look around and see the new faces in the space, see the new people that we can engage with, see how our work has shifted as a result of the pandemic in different ways to meet our customers' needs. And so I'm really excited to conduct this training not only because I've felt a little bit siloed. I'll say that. I'll be the first one to raise my hand as somebody working at OED. I haven't had the same chance to, lift my head up and get to know all the other partners in the space. And I know that there's a lot of new faces here. So if you look around the room, how many of you have met each other before? Are you familiar with everyone in this space? No, no. And that's okay. That's okay because that means there's more opportunities for you to meet folks and connect and find new people to help serve our common customers. So thank you for being here. Thanks, Ricky. So one quote that I'll say as we get started or continue this conversation is everyone you will ever meet knows something you don't. That was said by Bill Nye, if you're familiar with him. But the goal of our meeting here is to define the current state of our work. So what has changed? What's the reality of our situation here? How are we meeting the needs of our customers? We will also review our WorkSource Oregon operational standards. We're going to spend quite a bit of time building relationships, networking, again, getting to know the faces in the space. Strategizing on improving and integrating our service delivery so we have a seamless service delivery for our customers. And then also setting local goals. We cannot set goals unless we've got everybody in the space together and we've got voices from different perspectives that we can, different customers, we can come together and talk and shape those goals. So a big question we got was, why are we doing this training in person when virtual meetings exist? Over the last couple of years, I think we've gotten pretty comfortable in the virtual realm. We're used to seeing each other on screen. Most of the people I know based on like that little square box, right? I don't know if anybody can relate. But I had the chance to go to a meeting last week for business services with OED. And although I've seen these people on camera and I've trained with them, there were so many people I didn't actually know. I've met them on camera, but they actually look different in person. And everyone's surprised to find out I'm not actually 6 foot tall. I'm pretty short. So technology is a tool. It's a great tool. It's what's allowed us to continue our work throughout the pandemic. But there are limitations to those virtual meetings. And so I get the chance to conduct a lot of virtual meetings, engaging with new hires, onboarding, and that small square doesn't mean I get the chance to build relationships with folks. Connectivity issues can make meetings disconnected. The screen only allows for so many people to show up on your computer. And so although we're meeting and talking about the same thing in a virtual meeting, there's not the same chance to collaborate. So that is the reason why we want to bring everybody together, all of our partners, so then we can again get to know who's in the space, how can we work together to serve our common customers. So let me see here. Thank you. So in an effort to serve our common customer, these are the things that need to happen. So like I mentioned, we've got to network. We have to know who's in the space. You all agreed with me that there's a lot of faces in here that you've probably never met before. And so as a reminder, with those new faces, those are new opportunities to learn. We all have something that we can share, previous experience, even outside of the work that you've done previously. All of that will lend to really great and collaborative conversations. We will have a chance to strategize, having a common understanding of the work that we do and how we can collaborate. And so this is just a really exciting opportunity to have everybody in the space and brainstorm, get into the nitty gritty, ask the hard questions, talk about our successes. There's a lot of things that we did over the last few years in the pandemic that were difficult, and should also be celebrated. And out of those difficulties, we found new strategies to support our customers even more in different ways, which is really cool. So our plan is we will have trainers from across the state actually coming here tomorrow and the next day for a Train the Trainer event. We wanted to make sure that we had trainers from all different partnerships so we could have that same level of buy-in, bring in different perspectives. It wasn't just a one-sided view of the work that we do. We can really take that time to listen and share ideas. So our plan is to train these folks, and then we will roll out the training in person over May and June. I will say that the dates right now, we're currently working on gathering the total number of participants. So the dates will be dependent on how many participants we have, because what we have planned for these sessions will require some larger groups in order to make it function in the way that we want it to function. Yeah.
The local leadership teams have reached out to find out who should be in the training sessions locally. If you haven't heard from your local leader and you're really interested, just let them know, because we want to be as inclusive as we possibly make it in every.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Breaking down those silos, finding ways that we can collaborate. That's why we need all the voices in the space. So if you do have that interest, please convey that to your leadership and let them know you want to participate. So I'll show you what to expect. I'm going to give you a little bit of a sample of what's to come for our training agenda. And sorry, Ricky, you might have to click through several times. So our training is split over a course of a day and a half. And so we will meet the first day for a full day, and then the second day will be a half day. To start out our training, we have a customer experience simulation planned, which I'll talk about a little bit more on the next slide here. We will then review the standards, what's been changed, what's been updated, how are we operating moving forward. We'll talk about the customer flow, have a chance to network with each other. And in that customer flow, we're really wanting to understand, how do customers engage with you? How do you make referrals? How would you like to receive referrals? Because I think a lot of people may not have a good understanding, at least me, I'll throw myself under the bus, may not have a good understanding of all of those referral processes that exist. And so this will give us a chance, again, to know the faces in the space and how we can work together, how that customer comes into our centers and then leaves with their goals accomplished. After day one, when we have had some good conversations, we will move forward with the second take of a customer simulation. So the idea there is, after we've had some conversations and started to explore the way that we work, that customer simulation will run a lot smoother the second time around, or it'll bring up some other ideas for us to talk about as we talk about next steps in our way forward. So with that solutions and moving forward piece, we really want to keep this solutions oriented. It's really easy to fall into the negatives, or like maybe what's not going well. But as I mentioned before, there's been a ton of success over the last couple of years, being creative, finding ways to collaborate in order to serve those customers. So we still want to talk about those, but we've also probably identified some of the challenges and opportunities that exist to help reshape our work and work together a little bit more effectively. And then at the end, we'll end with some goal setting. So we don't want to just leave the conversation with nothing to do. This time is truly a time to collaborate and brainstorm and talk about the ways that we can work together. And so at the end, you'll be able to form some goals, take away some action items. So this simulation, we want to be really clear that this is not a game. It's not a game. It's meant to actually simulate some of the things that our customers can be experiencing. And so some of the things that we're going to hopefully get out of it is to evaluate the customer experience for ease of use and access to our services, identify opportunities for program delivery effectiveness and collaboration, identify successes within the processes, and then talk about how that simulation went. And maybe there are some new things that we need to consider that maybe we didn't consider before that could be impacting our customers. So the way that this will be set up is there's going to be some different roles I'll talk about in the next page. You don't have to remember all of this, but we will have services or tables set up around the room. We'll have participants acting as staff people in WorkSource Oregon centers, and we will have people acting as customers. We will have a whole list of services or partnerships available for the simulation, and the goal is to adjust it based on who's in the room. So if we've got that experience in the space, we want to use it, and so hopefully this time we'll be able to represent how things are working. The roles on the next slide here. Thanks, Ricky. So as I mentioned, we will have the facilitators, we'll have program partner staff, and then we'll have our customers. So the customers are going to work to complete the goals as assigned in their profile, and those customers will have different barriers or things going on. Our program and partner staff may not necessarily know everything about the program that they are representing in the simulation, but that's also by design. So what are our customers experiencing? What is the wait time like? Are they feeling frustrated because they're having to wait? And then we will also have the facilitators, which will lead the simulation. So for the customers, they will be given an assigned profile, tasks to complete. They'll have barrier cards, which I just like to call life cards, transportation, trip tickets, and money. This will all vary depending on the profile that you're given. So some people may experience more barriers than others. And even throughout the simulation, if they've accomplished their goals and they sit down because they're done, life may happen and throw you another card. People can acquire disabilities, maybe they lose their job, maybe they become justice impacted. All these different things can impact somebody's success in accomplishing their goals, whatever those may be. And so this is to give us a better understanding, again, of what our customers may be experiencing. Now, some of this may be difficult to talk about, and so I just want to honor that, the barriers that people may go through. And so people going through the simulation may feel some of those same emotions that our customers may feel, the frustration and having to wait, or like wondering why they can't get access to a certain service, or they're running out of gas and like, well, how am I supposed to make it to my job interview? This is all to bring us closer to our customer. When I went through the simulation, it was about a year ago, I was surprised at just how frustrated I felt, and then also surprised by my profile that I got, because it was totally unlike my experience. So it really gave me a different perspective of what a customer could potentially experience. So I'm really excited about this. It'll bring a greater level of empathy for our customers, and in turn help us strategize and find new ways to help support those customers. So there's a timeline that goes with this. Although we don't have 4 real weeks to meet, obviously, we have 4 weeks set up in this simulation that lasts about 15 minutes each. So that adds to the stress a little bit in accomplishing your goals. But hopefully it won't be too stressful, because when we all start working better together, that customer flow will be a little bit smoother, hopefully the second time around. And part of the process will be waiting in line. So the goal is just to complete all the tasks that you've been given for that week. And this is just an overview of what will be covered in kind of the lecture piece, I'll call it, and reviewing the standards for this day-and-a-half training. So our objective here is to achieve the highest level and quality of service to job seekers and employers through standard state guidance and local standardized practices. We'll talk about Oregon's workforce system, WorkSource Oregon, and the operational standards. We will define workforce and WIOA, understand our partners, our team, the services that we provide, know our vision, our mission, values, and standards. And then in the end, the key takeaways will have a better understanding of Oregon's workforce system and how it works, who we are, who we serve, and what we do, and offer basic foundational services. So another activity that we'll be doing is the customer flow activity. And this is going to take part in multiple parts. But the first piece is if you have other folks in your training space who are from the same partnership, you will collaborate, work together to define that customer flow. So as a team, you're going to agree, how do customers come to you? And how do you like to receive referrals? How do you offer referrals to other programs? The next step then is we're going to mix up groups, and they'll have a chance to talk with other partners in the space, share what that customer flow is, the services they provide, how they make referrals. The third piece of this is that same group is then going to have to come together and talk about how they can serve an assigned customer. So each group will be assigned a customer, and it's that group's responsibility to work together and come up with a plan to serve that customer. So identifying the services that can be provided, and maybe even identifying the customer flow. So how are they going to work with each of these partnerships, or which partnerships are they going to be working with? And so by the end of it, we'll have a hopefully better understanding, again, of how our local systems work under the WorkSource Oregon standards. I mentioned before that we want to keep this solutions oriented, and so after we've talked about our customer flow, after we've gone through this simulation, there's probably going to be a lot of questions, a lot of thoughts going through your mind, and so this is the space where you'll be able to actually talk about it. What's currently working well with the system, what steps you can take to better serve your customers, what challenges do you anticipate, and what solutions can you think of to help with those challenges. We won't be able to solve all the world's problems today or tomorrow or a month, a year from now even, but the idea is to start the momentum, get the conversations rolling, and find new ways to work together. Okay. How many of you have heard about the outward mindset? I know Ricky has. So the outward mindset is a way for us to basically see others and find new ways to work together and collaborate, essentially. Removing those silos that exist in our work and that have probably been created as a result of the pandemic, where we all had stuff to do, maybe not enough resources, not a lot of people on our team. And so it was very easy to put those blinders on and just keep pushing forward. And so this conversation, or guided networking, I guess you could say, is built off of the Arbinger Institute's outward mindset. And there are 3 questions that we bring to the table when we are building relationships and learning how to work together again. Those questions are: how does someone in my role affect or potentially affect your ability to do your work, both positively and negatively? And the goal behind this is to help us see others. And then from there, once we see others, we can adjust our efforts. So from your perspective, how could a person in my role be most helpful to you? And then afterwards, measuring impact. How and at what frequency would you like me to check in and even stay accountable? So going back to those questions real fast. So to see others means we're striving to understand others' needs, objectives, and challenges. Adjusting efforts, given what I learn from others, I want to adjust my efforts in order to be more helpful. And measuring impact, measure and hold myself accountable for the impact of my work on others. What I like about these questions and this principle of the outward mindset is it doesn't require you to put your needs aside to listen to other people. It's an avenue to have a conversation and both talk about your needs and what's going well and how you can operate moving forward. I've had challenges in the workplace, as we all probably have, whether that's with the relationships that we're building or with the work that we're given. And this is always a really good place for me to go back to when I feel like I'm going inward and focusing just like on myself and my work. When I stop seeing other people very well, we all at some point are inward and at some point outward. But our goal is to strive for maintaining that outward mindset when we are working with other people. And this applies both professionally and personally. So I've brought this home and had some good conversations with my husband about some things too. Just a really nice way to have a conversation. So knowing that we have, I think, quite a bit more time and we've got people we haven't seen in these spaces before. Where are we at on time? Okay. We're going to take some time to do some of that networking. And so using these questions, you'll have the time to talk with people at your table, get to know their world of work, and see if there's any ways that your work connects or ways that maybe you can collaborate. So we're going to take about 15 minutes. Just choose somebody next to you at your table, and we'll use these questions to start making connections. And I would encourage you, as you continue with the rest of this event, you bring these questions forward with any of the other conversations and people you meet. So this doesn't just apply to this training, it really applies to building good, strong professional relationships. Before we go into our conversations, Cindy or Ricky, do you have anything else you'd like to share?
That the outward mindset is a really helpful tool when you're working with one another and just really considering all perspectives and the lens in which someone is coming from. And I think that really will help us as we move forward in implementation of the standards. I think these are really helpful questions to have.
All right. So with that, let's go ahead and start talking. And afterwards, we'll debrief, and I'll be curious to see if any of you were able to make some connections for your work. So how was that, getting to connect with new people? See thumbs up. Did anyone raise a hand, get to meet somebody new? Yay. Okay, that's great. That's great. Did anyone get to create some next steps or find a commonality in the work that you do? Seeing some nods. Good. Good. Long wait times. So what were the key takeaways? Anyone feel free to share? Anyone have any takeaways from those conversations? Yeah, go ahead.
We started talking, and
Yes, there is a lot of commonality in our work, and there are a lot of people to serve in Oregon. So it's not a matter of like, those are your customers and those are your customers and these are mine. They're all of our customers. We all have something that we can bring to the table and help support them with potentially, maybe at different stages. Maybe they don't need one of us at all, but it's good that we're having these conversations so we can know what's out there, and we can collaborate. And if somebody's needing something more, I think of STEP, for example, with tuition funding, and there's some partnerships there. OED is not always able to cover everything. And so we lean on our partners to see, hey, what are some other ways we can help support this customer to help accomplish their goals for training and employment. Any other takeaways from folks I want to share?
I think this
No, that's okay. And if you are going to the trainer in the next couple of days, you'll get everything you need to know, including training kits to bring home with you or to your areas. So hopefully you'll all feel very supported. But thank you for being a part of that team. All right. Any other takeaways, comments? Okay. So networking, again, allows us to know who's in the room. Who's in the room, who are the new faces, who are the old faces. We all have something that we can learn from one another, especially after the pandemic when there's been all this kind of wild change happening. Now is the best time to sit down and same page, create that strong foundation, building from the bottom up. Relationship building allows for that role clarification, understanding those referral processes, coming to that common understanding and really truly seeing each other and seeing what it is we bring to the space. Strategizing, connecting our brains, using the knowledge we have in the space. We don't want people to leave and not share their knowledge. That happens all the time. And so if you've got somebody in front of you, like you've all had the opportunity to meet new people today, take that time to show curiosity, ask them questions, and take it as a way to, an opportunity to collaborate potentially. And then by collaborating, we're creating that really well-oiled machine, providing seamless service delivery, integrated, braided services to our customers. So no one's left behind. Again, we've got a lot of people to serve, so it's not a matter of these are ours, those are yours. We're all here at the table. Let's see what we can do to help support this person in front of us. And so with that, I'll just say if there's any questions that folks have, I can open it up for that. Okay. I'm not seeing any questions, which is totally okay. But I will leave you with one last thought as we close out. Nothing shapes our lives so much as the questions we ask, refuse to ask, or never dream of asking. So as a learning and development specialist, one of my greatest strengths is my curiosity. And that's the one thing I'd like all of you to take away is to stay curious. There's always something to learn. There's always someone new we can learn things from. So as we move forward with the rollout of the standards and you see this work being talked about, keep that open, that outward mindset, and stay curious, bring your solutions. We are here to build our foundation and build a strong foundation at that as we define our work moving forward. So thank you everyone for being here. I hope you all have a great rest of your day and continue to make those great connections. Happy Monday. Thanks for kicking off the week with me.